everyone. So today I'm here with the amazing Nikki Lilly.
Hi.
Nikki. So first off, before we get started, please can you introduce yourself to our viewers for
Sure.
anyone who isn't sure what it is you do?
Sure, so I'm Nikki, but most people know me as Nikki Lilly online. And I am a content creator and also a TV presenter and a advocate and campaigner for people with visible differences and living with a chronic illness.
Oh, thank you so much. So firstly, you're amazing,
Oh,
as we
thank
all
you.
know. I read your book, finally got to properly read it
Did
this year.
you?
I
Oh my
absolutely
gosh.
loved it and couldn't put it down. And read some of it with my
you.
little brother as well.
Really?
He really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was amazing. So I have lots of questions here
Okay.
from people in our Facebook group, so we will get cracking.
Sure.
So the first one is, how are you? How are you doing at the moment?
Yeah, I'm alright. I feel in a much better headspace as it's just been nicer weather and we're kind of slightly easing out of lockdown and everything now, and the restrictions have eased. So I'm in a better headspace because of those things. I think my mood is very affected by the weather.
Yeah,
like,
me
if
too.
it's grey outside, my mood is just going. So I think it being sunny and being able to see more people has been really nice. Obviously, there are some days where that you have good days and some days where you have bad days. So sometimes, recently I've just been feeling a bit like down because
Yeah.
of just everything going on too. But overall, I'm in a better place than I was. So
Oh, amazing. That's so good to hear. Yeah, I completely relate to what you said, like
Yeah.
good days and bad days. It's crazy how with both physical and mental health things can be so
Oh,
different
definitely.
from one day to the next. So before we kind of go further, can you tell us a little bit more about you and your achievements?
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of achievements, so it's hard to narrow down. But yeah, just some of the things that you're
Yeah.
most proud of, I would
Sure.
say.
I'd say one of the things I'm most proud of is receiving my BAFTA Special Award. That was insane. So I received that in the end of 2019, which is basically like BAFTA gives one away to, like, I think TV, but also children when they do their awards, and it's basically like special recognition for the different things that you've done. But it's often not given to someone like so young. So when they told me that they wanted to give me the award, I was literally like, are you sure? Like the whole
bless
time
you.
I was literally like, are you sure you want, like, this is mine? Because so many other amazing people have received it and I just didn't feel worthy. So I've received that. I've received an Emmy award for one of my documentaries about my life with the BBC. I won Junior Bake Off in like a few years ago now, 2016, but that's a massive achievement to me, I think, because it was such a dream of mine, and it's something that, with the other awards, they're incredible, but like this one was for something that I'd worked for. It was a competition, so that was a massive achievement, because it's something that, especially after I was diagnosed with my condition, never thought I'd be able to achieve and even be on the show. And then also my YouTube channel. So I started my YouTube channel when I was 8, and that has over like 1 million followers on it.
Wow.
Now, which is crazy, and it just became like a positive outlet for myself when I was having a bad day. But also I started TikTok, so that's got like 5.5 million followers.
That's
on it
crazy.
now. Insane. I don't know how that happened.
Oh no, you deserve it though.
Thank you. But yeah, it's just really nice to have more followers, in the sense that I'm able to share my message of treat everyone how you want to be treated, and everyone is equal and everyone is unique to who they are.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you, and you 100% deserve all of those incredible
Thank
things
you, Beth.
because you're amazing.
Yeah, I often go through like thinking like this shouldn't be mine. They've
Aw.
made a mistake. I'll pinch myself in a moment and wake up. But yeah, I'm very grateful and it's amazing.
Oh yeah, I think it must be quite hard not to kind of get that into your head, but you definitely, I can say 100% deserve everything and more. So would you mind just explaining to anyone who isn't sure what your condition is? What is an AVM?
So an AVM stands for arteriovenous malformation, and you will always be born with an AVM. And you can get one in any part of your body, so some people often get them in their limbs, like their legs or their arms, or another common one is also brain AVMs, which can be one of the worst to have and deal with. But I've got an AVM, quite a big one, so my AVM's in the right side of my face, behind my eye, and also the top of my head, and also my gums on the right side. So basically, to explain an AVM, so you have arteries, capillaries, and veins all over your body, and the arteries are in between. Oh no, the capillaries, sorry, are in between the arteries and veins, and the veins are low flow in your body, like pump blood at low flow, and then the arteries pump blood at high flow, and so the capillaries, I say, kind of like the middleman. They like balance them out. But in this area of my face where an AVM is, you don't have the capillaries where they need to be, or they don't form correctly, and so it causes the arteries and the veins to collide into each other, which causes a lot of pressure, which causes bleeding, swelling, pain, things like that. So.
Oh, thank you so much. I think it's always good to, I think lots of people might have heard of an AVM, but they don't necessarily know what it is.
Yeah,
so
I hope that made sense.
No, it definitely made sense. It made sense to me completely. Thank you. So I know that you have an amazing charity who do a lot of work, you and your family in particular, do some really amazing stuff with them. So would you be able to tell us a little bit about what the charity does?
So me and my family set up a charity called the Butterfly AVM Charity when I was 8 or 9 years old, because I was diagnosed with my condition when I was 6. You can be diagnosed at any age because it can be inactive for ages and then just become active at any age. And at the time, it was like 2010, there was nothing online about what AVMs were even. We just got told I had an AVM, but there was no further like information about like where do we go from now? How is our life going to change? There was nothing like that of people sharing their experiences online because it was such a long time ago now. It wasn't even listed in like the NHS A to Z of like conditions because it is so rare. My one, where it's placed, affects 3 in a million. And so we were left feeling really isolated and alone, and my parents were really scared. And the information that there was online was really scary. A lot of it was about brain AVMs and the different bleeds you can have and how they can be fatal. And I think we were left feeling very isolated and alone, and even our doctors didn't really quite understand what AVMs were. And so we wanted to set up the Butterfly AVM Charity because there's no cure for AVMs. And they are still really difficult to treat. We wanted to set it up to fund research into looking for an actual cure for AVMs, fund research directly, but also we wanted to raise awareness about AVMs because they are so rare, and also through doing my channels and things, I've been able to interact with and talk to more people with AVMs or just chronic illnesses similar to me, which has been amazing. But also be a support network for people who have been diagnosed and are living with AVMs or have been newly diagnosed and don't really know. We're in the same position as we were in. And we basically never want anyone to be in the same position as us where they felt isolated and alone, and we want to be that support network for them too.
Oh, that's incredible. I think it's amazing that you guys have done all of that work, and kind of seeing how far it's come is really amazing. I remember not long ago the online event, that was incredible. It was so much fun.
Oh my gosh, we do like an annual ball every year to raise money, and obviously weren't able to do that this year unfortunately, or last year unfortunately. So we did like a virtual event which did so amazingly well, and was just such an amazing night. It's always so amazing to see like people with AVMs or just friends of ours or just family, and all of us come together to support an amazing cause.
Oh, it is so lovely. Oh no, it's amazing. So what would you like to go on to achieve next? Is there anything in particular that you're kind of working towards at the moment?
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of things in the works which are very exciting, but I just really want to be able to, I'm at school at the moment, so it makes everything a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
As we've been talking about, me and Beth were talking about how much I'm not a fan of school.
Not a favourite place.
No, definitely not. But I think I really, really want to just become a bigger advocate of being someone with a visual difference and how that affects your life, not only physically but mentally. And I think sometimes people forget that I don't just have a visual difference, I have a medical condition.
Of course.
And so that affects my health a lot, and so I really want to talk about being, which I kind of do in my book, being a teenager and living with different mental health, but also just I really want to start working with social media on censoring hate speech and bullying online, because I think that's still such a great area, and though social media platforms are doing more than they used to do, it's nowhere near enough.
No, not at all.
And I really want to censor things like discrimination against someone for looking different, or racism or sexism or anything like that. So I really want to start working on social media platforms on that, and just continue to hopefully be like a positive outlet and escapism for people who are struggling, going through a bad day, and just letting them know that they're not alone. And I think sometimes being on social media can be a very scary place, and sometimes you often compare yourself a lot to other people. And I just want to show people that though I do social media, I'm still a teenager and I'm just like you, and like you're enough the way you are. And I think that's something that we struggle with every day, is feeling like we're enough. So I just really want to push that message and hopefully do more TV stuff. I'm really looking forward to hopefully doing more of that, continuing to grow my social medias to push those messages. And yeah, just I think continue doing what I'm doing and just see where it goes really.
Oh, that's really exciting. I have no doubt that you will definitely achieve everything.
Yeah,
that
I'm really
you would
looking
like
forward
to
to see what the future holds.
Yeah, it's so exciting. So kind of leading on from that, is there anything that you would say to people who maybe in the past, whether they kind of expressed it or not, believed that because you live with an illness you couldn't go on to achieve as much as other people? Is there anything you would kind of say to those people now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was that person. I was the biggest. I didn't believe in myself at all. Never thought I'd be able to go on Junior Bake Off. Never thought I'd achieve anything. Honestly, just thought I'd be at home, like, or in hospital living with my illness, which, I do. But I think when I got diagnosed with my condition, I realised that there's two ways you can go. You can either not that there's anything wrong with this. You can either just sit at home and just do nothing and let this condition define you, or you can define who you want to be while living with the condition and let it just be a part of you and a part of you growing. And I think that was my defining factor, and I think it's so important to realise that it's totally okay to feel like you're not enough, we all do, and to doubt yourself, especially when you're faced with adversity like living with a visible difference and feeling different or struggling or feeling like an outsider or like no one understands. But I think just know that you are enough, and the dreams that you have can become a reality. I think I'm first-hand living proof of that. And I think just know that whatever you want to do, if you put your mind to it and you're determined, then you can achieve just as much as anyone without a visible difference or without a chronic illness can. You just have to believe in yourself. And though it's going to be hard at times, and it'll probably be harder than other people, you can still do just as much as someone else can, if not more. It just all starts with, I think, believing in yourself.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. I think that's so important, everything you said there, because living with an illness is something you live with,
definitely.
and it's a part of you, but that doesn't mean it has to always be viewed in a negative way. Of course it can bring some huge hardships, but you're still an amazing person achieving amazing things.
Thank
and no
you.
one should ever belittle that or think that's not possible.
And I think I saw it as like, I'm not the girl with the condition, I'm Nikki, and I've got so many different so many different parts to me and dimensions to me, as everyone has, and I didn't want to be the girl with the condition that let the condition define her. I wanted to define who I wanted to be while living with the condition.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. So again, kind of leading on from that, what do you think kind of helped you or could help other people accept that sometimes, unfortunately, health conditions don't go away? It's something we do have to live with and learn to manage. What do you think can help people accept that and move forward with it in their life?
Yeah, definitely. I actually really struggled with accepting myself, because I think with an AVM, often I looked normal up until 6 years old, like any other person, and so I think I really struggled with going from looking normal to my appearance changing, now being the outsider as I felt and looking different. And so it took me ages to accept myself, and because I was diagnosed so young, I also didn't understand that my life was going to change or what was wrong with me. Not that anything was wrong with me, but I just didn't understand that, why was my life changing?
Of course.
Why was I in hospital? And so what I would say to you is, first, if you are struggling, know that it's okay not to be okay. I think a lot of what helped me accept myself was my family accepting me and reassuring me that they love me for who I am. I think that was a big thing. you know, over the years and still now, I'm continuing to, you know, try to love myself, and I really struggled with self-love through the years. But I think I've realised that I am me for a reason, and that can be something really, really hard to grapple with and to process and to accept. But I think it all starts with talking to people. I think letting everything build up inside, whether it's needing to, you know, accept yourself and work towards that, or dealing with mental health struggles, I think it all starts with talking to someone. And so never feel afraid to talk to someone, and your family members and your friends are there for you, and they're there to listen. And so I think being able to, even if like my, you know, family didn't understand to an extent, because my mum and dad were going through different things to me and everything else, because they were parents of someone who'd been diagnosed and I was a person diagnosed. But I think being able to talk to them about how I was feeling made a big difference when I was struggling with who I was and feeling just rubbish and just feeling really annoyed at the world that I had to be this way and thinking, why me? Which, you know, everyone goes through that. And so I think it all starts with talking to people, knowing that it's okay to be angry at the world for what you're going through and what your life is like, but also you have to get to a point where you realise that it's not going to change. And once again, it goes back to that thing of like, with this life that you now have and the cards that you've been dealt with and the adversity you've been dealt with, firstly, there's always going to be someone going through worse than you. There's always going to be someone going through better than you. But with what you've got, just try and make the most of it. And I know that can be really hard, but you're going to look back 10 years down the line and wish that you'd done what you'd wanted to do.
Oh, definitely. Thank you. That's one of the things I love most about you, is how you have this ability to be this hugely positive, inspirational person without pretending that everything's always amazing, because everything isn't always amazing for anyone.
It would be weird if life was always positive.
Exactly, yeah, and especially when you do live with such a serious condition, it's impossible for there not to, unfortunately, be really difficult times, but we can learn to live with those, and you've turned that into a positive thing in a way, by helping so many other people and sharing your experiences, which is really, really incredible. So the last kind of part of this little section is similar to what we touched on before, but is there anything, so with our charity, a lot of what we work with is teenage girls who have endometriosis. Oh, thank you. Is there anything you would say to someone who has mainly been newly diagnosed with endometriosis or an AVM or any kind of condition that can bring things like chronic pain, if they've been told, forget about the career you're hoping for, forget about anything, you're just going to kind of stay at home and be ill, we can't help you, what would you kind of say to someone who's been told that and is, as anyone would, struggling to process and know what to do with that so-called information?
It's probably, I think, getting newly diagnosed with something that, you know, it's not like a cold or something, it's something that's going to, you know, be there for a long time, is probably one of the hardest parts of your life, because processing that is so difficult. And so I think it goes back to that thing of like, firstly, knowing that like you're not alone, as lonely as it can all feel, but also knowing that no one knows you better than you know yourself. And I think for me, I at the beginning really struggled with picking myself up, and you know, doctors said to my parents, and there's not much we can do for her, and I had to give up all of my, I was such an active child and I did so many things, and I had to give all of that up. Barely ended up seeing my friends because I wasn't going to school, was just in and out of hospital or at my house. And so the thing I would say is, I think it's so important to, firstly, if you're going through that, give yourself time to heal. I think it opens up a massive wound and can be really, really hard on you. So I think it's also just giving yourself time to regroup and listen to yourself and your body and think about, what do I want? What do I want from being diagnosed with a condition? What do I want from my life? And I think it's just making steps in the right direction. I think it's so important when there's always going to be people that doubt you and don't believe in you, whether it's a teacher or a doctor or your parent even. But I think it's so important through that to just listen to yourself, because at the end of the day, the only opinion that matters is your own. And so I think it's so important to listen to yourself, but also listen to your body. I think that's so important. Listen to your head, and think about, what do I want? For me, I wanted to be on Junior Bake Off. I wanted to have a positive outlet for myself, to express myself, and also be that positive outlet for other people. And I just made little steps to work towards that, and it's okay to ask for help and need support, but know that also you're just really not alone, and it's okay to struggle, and I'm sorry that you're struggling, and it's okay to feel rubbish and really, really, really struggle with why me and everything like that. But I think it's also just listen to yourself and think about, what do I want out of everything.
Oh, 100%. I think that's so important. No, it definitely made sense, and I loved what you said about kind of little steps. That's something has definitely helped me, was gradually learning to just one day at a time, even less than that at time, 15 minutes at a time. Yeah, 100%.
Definitely. I think I've always worried about the future, and always worried about when my condition will be and what I'll be like. I think it's so important to take a day at a time, and you never know what tomorrow's going to be like. But I also think if you have a bad day, start the next one hoping that it'll be a good day. Yeah,
definitely. Oh, I love that. And another thing you kind of touched on there is kind of listening to yourself, and again, that's of course so important anyway, but especially when you do have an illness. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute, but you do have limitations. There's certain things that you can't always do, but that doesn't have to be the end, you know, you can find new things.
Be the thing that limits you from achieving your full potential.
Exactly. No, 100%. So if it's okay, in this next section we'll talk a bit about mental health, because I know that's something that you're really passionate about, which I love. So first question that was sent in is, how do you look after your mental health?
I think it's taken me a little while to find what works for me, and I think everyone finds different things that are useful. But I think firstly, giving myself, I'm an introvert massively, and so
Me too.
Massively. I get exhausted from social interaction.
Same.
So I think for me, it's giving myself time to be in my room, shut myself off, and just heal and build back my energy. I think that's a massive thing for me. Also giving myself, making time, even if I'm busy, making time to give myself some TLC, whether it's literally just like face mask and a bath. That makes a big difference. But I also think that speaking to people is a massive thing. So like at the moment, I will speak to like my like mum and dad, or I'll speak to like my brother or sister if I'm struggling, or I also have like a therapist that I talk to, which is really helpful. And I think when you're going through mental health, sometimes it's really hard to accept that you need help, because you feel like you can't deal with it alone. But I think me accepting that I needed some help with dealing with my mental health, which is completely normal.
Definitely.
And everyone needs that help and that helping hand to go through dealing with their mental health, especially at the moment with everything that's happened in the world. And I think with me starting to accept that I needed help and that I needed someone to talk to made a big difference. But yeah, I'd say the biggest things for me are giving myself some TLC, letting myself have that time to just escape to my room and just, like hibernate is a big thing, and recharge my batteries. Speaking to people, even I know starting that conversation can be so difficult, but I think we also make it a lot more difficult and scary in our heads than it actually
100%.
is to literally just be like, I'm feeling rubbish. Also speaking to my friends is a big thing. And yeah, I think just letting myself know that it's okay to have a bad day and it's okay to feel rubbish.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. That's 100% true. Couldn't agree more. So you speak a bit in your book about kind of some medical trauma that you've experienced. I think, unfortunately, there's so many kinds of trauma in life that people can go through, but medical trauma is one that isn't really spoken about. I've never quite understood why that is. I think it is a very broad kind of spectrum of things, but it affects people a lot, especially who have chronic illnesses, because I find that a lot of the time, obviously, if we've experienced something traumatic, we then want to avoid that thing. However, if that thing is to do, we can't. It's not. Unfortunately, it's not always possible, which is really difficult. Would you be able to talk a bit about how that's affected you and how you've kind of dealt with it?
Definitely, I love that you spoke about that. Yeah, I think with trauma and also like PTSD, which is one of the things that I've struggled with because of medical stuff, I think that's not really something that's ever associated. Like often, you know, I used to look up PTSD and you know, the same things would come up, which is completely fine because they are the more common ones, but never medical trauma would come up. And I think like but it must be such a normal thing for people that are going through chronic illnesses or in and out of hospital, having operations or chronic pain. Even just that can be a massive traumatic thing for you. And so I think for me, being at hospital, and I've been at hospital and been going to hospital for 10 years now. So over the years, there have been times that I've really, really struggled. Like I think I speak about in my book when in 2018 I was really unwell and I ended up in a sleep-induced coma, and that was really, really tough for me. I really struggled with processing what had happened, really struggled with having flashbacks of like the before it happened and then the after, and anything can, you know, be a trauma for you. It can be the smallest thing, having a bad experience with a blood test, you know. Like for me, I've had so many bad experiences with needles, I've got an actual phobia of them now. Like I'll cry if a needle comes in me. And so I think anything can be a trauma for people, the smallest thing to like you know, having a bad operation. And it's really important to kind of start talking about that, because I think it is you know, being in a hospital is really traumatic, whether it's literally just an appointment or being in there for, you know, I've been in hospital for like 4 weeks before, and that can be really traumatic too, just being in a hospital bed for days on end. And so it really affected me in the sense that it was a really thing, I think with PTSD, it's one of the biggest things that people struggle to understand. Definitely. Because it is such a unique experience to you. It's not like anxiety, where even though it is unique to you with how you're feeling, anxiety is an easier thing to understand, whereas PTSD really is so personal. So I think with dealing with like trauma and PTSD, that was one of the biggest struggles I had, was like processing how I was feeling and processing the thoughts that I had and the stuff that I'd gone through, but also trying to explain that to other people so that they could, when they were trying to help me, often like my parents would try to help me and try and be there for me, but I also didn't know how to be there for myself. So it became really difficult with that sense, and it can also be quite depressing and you know, cause a lot of anxiety when you rethink of the experiences. But also with me, I had to go back into hospital. You know, I didn't have the option of being able to completely avoid something or you know, push that away, which I think also pushing things away isn't the healthiest way to deal with it. But I think I wasn't able to do that, but I also had to realise that it was just a bad experience. You can't again live your life you know, avoiding things because of that. And though I think I became a lot more, I think over the years I've become a lot more expressive with what I want and what I need, and sometimes I'll be struggling and my mum will be there for me to, you know, help me, especially in hospital. But I think over the years I've also been able to process what happened a bit more, and the ways I've been able to deal with it, I think, is just talking about it. I think especially with trauma, it can be super hard to revisit it, but in my case, I found talking about it is most helpful for me. I know that some people that isn't what's most helpful for them, but you know, some therapy is also a great thing, and that's something that I've had psychologists and therapists all through, you know, having my condition for different things, dealing with chronic pain, dealing with phobia of needles. I've also had like some eating problems, so then I had, you know, thing for that. So I think it's also just knowing that like it's okay to speak to someone about it, and because they are such personal experiences, it can feel really hard too. But I think it's important to deal with it whatever way that is in, because it's so hard to deal with trauma on your own.
Definitely. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with everything you said.
I always ramble on. I'm like,
no, not at all. I love listening to you speak. You're just one of those people I could just listen to you speak all day.
I hate my voice. I like listen to it back on videos and I'm like, oh god, here she is again.
Oh no, you have a lovely voice. Yeah, I think that's so important what you said, especially about how trauma is such a unique thing, and as you said, anything can be traumatic, because trauma isn't about the external situation.
Oh,
It's about your brain and your body's
and how
perception.
you process it and what it triggers. And I think often that I feel like trauma and PTSD is still something that is so like not talked about.
Definitely.
In any context, whether it's medical or in any other way that it affects someone.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think it's amazing that you speak about it, and I know myself reading your book really actually helped me in
I'm
that
so
sense.
glad.
Yeah, a huge amount. So thank you.
Of course. I'm so glad.
So moving on from that, how have you personally, as someone who lives with chronic pain and a chronic illness, coped with A, lockdown, and B, lockdown now easing?
So with lockdown, I honestly didn't mind being at home too much because being an introvert, being someone with a chronic illness, I'm used to that.
Yeah.
I've been in a lockdown my whole life.
Exactly.
It's like stupid, as sad as that is, I have. And so I think being at home element, especially in lockdown, the first lockdown, I didn't struggle with too much because I was used to being at home for endless amounts of time, and being an introvert, I like being at home. And so with actually the being at home part, I didn't find that too bad, and I'm lucky to live in a household where like me and my family, get along and are there for each other. I think I really struggled with going to hospital and just the whole experience being different and having to adapt to that. I found really like a big struggle. Like I had a few little like operations in while it was locked down in like the first one or the second one that I had to have, and just the whole thing of it, like I think there was a massive like uneasy feeling going into hospital, which was not great, and so I think I really struggled with that. But also I really struggled with like I was praying that like I was like my health better be okay throughout this time, because the last thing I wanted to do is have to go into hospital and have to, I think everyone was trying to avoid the hospital as much as possible, unless they had to go. And so I think I was like, I really hope my health is okay, because throughout this time, and I don't have any emergency things, because when I was having bad periods with like nosebleeds and my condition, I was like, please, like, don't let my condition get any worse, because otherwise, like, I may have to.
Yeah, of course, that must be really scary.
Yeah, and so I think that was like a big struggle for me, and something that I had a lot of anxiety about. I think it was just also like mentally, I think we all really struggled with like not having human interaction. I think was a big thing for me, not being able to see anyone, which is something that helps distract me from living with a chronic illness, which 24/7 is something that you deal with. And I think also just having to speak to doctors online, I didn't really, I mean I still have to do sometimes, but now we're able to kind of go into hospital more, but having to speak to doctors like either over the phone or like on a call,
it's not the same.
It's not the same at all, and I didn't leave them feeling like reassured, I think.
Yeah.
Because you could like, I'd say like, can you see this bit? And it's like you can't show them properly.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to kind of interact with doctors was something that I struggled with too. So yeah, I'd say those were all the biggest things, and also just mental health, like having quite a lot of bad days, but also some good days, and just trying to like process how best to deal with those, I think.
Oh yeah, of course, thank you. I'm glad we're kind of hopefully nearing the end of this chapter of our lives.
That book. Move on.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's so important that people speak about the fact, as you do, that having a chronic illness is more than what people see on the outside, and just in general it affects our mental health more than we can even kind of explain, because living with pain on a daily basis, other symptoms, and the unpredictable kind of nature of it, I imagine for you sometimes it's difficult. You don't always know if you're going to have a bleed. It must be really kind of challenging.
No, that what you said is so true, and pain is something that I was dealing with, especially over lockdown, and something that I really struggled with, because often I would just, though a lot of what I do to distract myself is stuff that I can do at home, which I'm used to, which is why I like have them to distract me. But there were a lot of times where like I did want to just go out and like distract myself by seeing my friends, or I wanted to like just go shopping, or I wanted to do things that I just go for a coffee, and there were so many things that I couldn't do that I wanted to do, that are other ways to distract myself. And I think pain is such especially when you are stuck at home, you're just stuck thinking about it. Often, even when you're going through pain, though you do have to stop and it does stop you from doing what you want to do, in a sense you are able to distract yourself because you're doing things. And I think because life was on pause, your distractions were on pause, and so everything was heightened and everything was
Yeah, definitely. I think that's something that's been really hard for a lot of people with any kind of constant illness throughout lockdown, is that unfortunately there are quite limited resources for a lot of people that can help them, and unfortunately a lot of those were taken away for 9 months, if not more.
Psychologists, everything.
Yeah, exactly. So it's tough, but as we said, we're glad. Hopefully things are in the right direction now.
Yeah.
I hope so. So in this next section, leading on from what we just spoke about, we'll kind of talk about chronic illness in general,
Sure.
and also your AVM. So in a nutshell, somebody asked, what is it like living with a condition that can be very serious as a teenager?
It's really scary. You're constantly living with uncertainty, and there's been so many times where I've cancelled plans, not even because I'm going through a bad time health-wise, but because I'm scared of what could happen. Like, there have been times where me and my friends are planning to go out shopping, but I will just feel so scared about what could happen that I will just cancel the plan and make up an excuse. And I think it can be really scary because there is so much uncertainty, and I think we all need that certainty in our lives to take every day that comes and to take on the day. And so having like your health, which is such a big part of your life, be the uncertain thing, is something that I've really struggled with. And I've not grown up being a normal kid, and I've not grown up being a normal teenager, and I think that is something that I always struggle with, is like always constantly striving for normalcy in my life. And there have been so many experiences where I think I struggle with people not being able to understand, especially people my age, and I struggle with people who don't appreciate having good health, or don't appreciate having it easy, which no one has it always easy, but who do have it easier. And so I always struggle with my friends. They only understand to a certain extent, but they've always tried to understand. But with people in general, obviously completely understand. You're naive to something that you've not been through. But I think I've always struggled with people just not understanding how hard it can be to live with a chronic illness, or my one, and everything like that. And so I think for me, I've always been striving for independence, because it's always been like my mum and my dad doing a lot for me, or being there for me all the time. I've always strived for normalcy, I've always strived for routine, and so when those things often are kind of the things that are uncertain in your life, it can be really difficult, especially as a teenager.
Yeah, 100%.
Strive for just, growing up and everything like that. And so it can be really, really difficult, but I think it's just important to try and have some little things that you do every day, even when there is a lot of the time I do have a routine and I am able to do stuff with my friends, but a lot of behind that is fear, and I think you're constantly living in fear and anxiety and pushing stuff away so that you don't have to deal with it, and not doing things out of your comfort box, I think. But I think having little things has helped me a lot that I do every day, whether that's waking up at a certain time, or having the same, even if it's literally having the same breakfast every day, having the little things that are routine, I think make a big difference. But I think with dealing with that uncertainty, it's super important and the seriousness of my condition, I think I've learned that it's just really important to voice how you're feeling, voice that you're scared. And I think that's something that I've done throughout the years, is that there have often been times where I've been like to my mum and dad, where I've had a bad time with my condition, been rushed to hospital, and then come back home after that, where I've been really nervous about going to sleep, or going outside of my house, or anything like that. And I think it's super important to speak to your doctors, is a massive thing I think is important, your nurses, speak to your parents, speak to whoever you can, and voice that you're scared. And you need the reassurance, and sometimes you can't reassure yourself, and so it's important that you voice how you're feeling to your doctors or your nurses or your parents. It makes such a difference, and it's important, and they're there to help you, and they're there to reassure you, and they're there to listen. You're not a burden as well. I think it's important.
Oh, definitely. Thank you. So kind of leading on from that, when you're having a particularly bad day or week pain-wise, what is it that helps you in kind of, it can be anything, what helps you if you're in pain?
I'm someone who, if I'm dealing with pain, all I want to do is get up and do stuff and like do the distractions which have helped me. You know, I want to get up and do some baking, which helps me when I'm going through pain to distract myself, or makeup or things like that. When you're having a really bad day pain-wise, you can't do that. And I think it's so important not to push yourself, to listen to your body. I think is a big thing, and it's still important to have distractions. So sometimes it will be, for me, I find like watching a show that I love, like a comfort show or a comfort film, is something that really helps me. I think it's really important to give yourself some rest. Often when I'm going through a lot of pain, I'll sleep a lot because I need to like recharge, and that would be something that helps.
Definitely.
I think it's also just like letting yourself know you need to stop. You need to, like, if you're going through awful pain, the last thing you want to do is be doing loads of stuff trying to distract yourself when you know it's not going to help.
There comes a point where distractions aren't enough, unfortunately.
So it's really important to listen to your body. Obviously, take whatever pain stuff helps you, but also I think it's just giving yourself some rest. Also talking to people. You don't want to have to deal with pain alone. And also just doing the little things that you can do, from like sitting down. So whether that is like listening to your favourite audiobook or podcast or watching something that makes you happy. I think don't feel guilty about literally just lying in bed all day because you are in pain. I think that's super important as well.
Oh, I completely agree. It's so important that we let ourselves rest when we need to. As much as it's sometimes difficult, it unfortunately can be the only way to make any progress.
I think that's something that also people struggled with in lockdown, is they felt like they constantly had to be doing something. And I think I learned over lockdown that it's okay to do nothing, whether you're having a bad day or you're struggling with pain or whatever it may be. It's okay to literally do nothing because you need that, and it's important to listen to your body.
100%. Everyone needs a break sometimes, especially when you live with a chronic illness. It's really important to give yourself that. So kind of similarly to that, how do you find that balance between listening to your body and respecting those limitations that your illness brings, but also kind of staying positive and staying in control in a way?
Well, both can be really difficult. I think it's very hard to get the balance right. I still don't at times, and it's something that I think you have to, throughout the years, test the boundaries, and that can be something that can be really hard because you often want to stay in your comfort zone of listening to your body, which means lying down and not doing much. I think for me, I've tried my best to push myself a little bit out of my comfort zone, and I think also my parents often encourage me like to do things. So just say I had plans with friends, and I've had like a bad nosebleed. Often if I don't feel like it, they'll completely respect that, but if I did want to go and I feel okay enough, they'll say, why don't you like either invite them here, or why don't you just go, and we'll be like, we're only a phone call away if you need some help. So I think it's a massive balance of often, with a chronic illness, there is, like you said, there is not much control and a lot of uncertainty. And so I think it's kind of trying to not, sometimes if you can, it's a massive, like you said, a massive balancing act. And I think there'll be times where you will maybe do things and regret doing them. So like there've been times where I've gone out like with my family when we were planning to, and I've just been like, I wish we didn't come, like I don't want to be here. But then there've been other times where I will be so glad that I went out with my friends, and I did do that, and my mum and dad convinced me to, or encouraged me to, when I was planning to just stay at home and not do anything. And so I think it's okay to struggle with getting the balance right, and every time's going to be different. There'll be some times where you're struggling with pain, but you do just want to stay at home, and that's completely fine and completely okay. there's no right or wrong. I don't think every thing that you want to do is unique to you and right in that moment. I think whatever feels right in the moment, I think you should do. I think getting that balance right is really difficult, but I think sometimes also, because I think you can get stuck in, when you stay at home, you can get stuck in, like, when you have pain and you have plans, I'm going to cancel the plans, I'm going to stay at home.
Yeah.
So I think it also makes a difference having people around you that also helps you see the other side.
Yeah, definitely.
Well.
I think, like you said, it is just kind of a constant balancing
Yeah, I
act.
think it's also like, so there'll be sometimes where all you want to do is go out, but you feel rubbish. So I think it's also having people that are like, no, you need to stay at home. You need
Definitely.
To have some time. So I think it's having both. Yeah, it's kind of looking at things from a broader perspective, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Oh, thank you. No, that's
right.
brilliant.
But it takes time to get to that place.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's quite a draining thing.
Oh, definitely.
And people should never feel that they have to figure out overnight. So it takes time, like you said.
Yeah.
So the next question is, when you're in hospital, whether that's having been admitted or recovering from an operation or waiting for an operation, what kind of helps you keep your spirits up? Because obviously when you're in hospital, you can be quite limited on what you can and can't do.
So the nurses at hospital have always been great. I think having reassurance from your doctors makes a big difference, because that build up of being in hospital and that lead up to an operation is so like anxiety filled and so daunting.
Definitely.
And even just the aftermath of being in hospital and having your operation. And so I think, my doctors and nurses have always been great with reassuring me and always asking me if I have any questions and everything like that.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Makes a big difference. And if they don't do that, then I think it's important for you to voice any of your concerns and not sit in the dark like, I wonder if this could happen. What if this happens in your head? Just ask. And there's never a question that you think they're going to think like, why did she ask that? Or that's a weird question to ask. All of the things you're worried about are valid. And a lot of them, though they won't happen, they're valid to ask.
Yeah,
Your doctors
definitely.
are there to reassure you as well as make you feel better. What else? I think for me, over the years I found different things that have helped me, because I've had 80 operations now.
Wow.
So over the years I found different things that work for me, also things that don't work for me. So for me, I find that I try not to give myself not too much to do. So I often would bring myself in low. If I knew I was going to have an operation and be in there for a week, I'd be really worried about missing out on school. I'd bring myself in loads of schoolwork to do, and I would realise that that's just not attainable. I just need to do what feels right in the moment.
Yeah, you have to go at your own pace.
Exactly. So for me, I will often just like I said, watch my favourite show. Often my mum will sit in bed with me and we'll watch it together, which is also really nice.
Yeah.
Or I think FaceTiming a friend while you're in hospital to make the time go by, or calling a friend or texting them. I think also bringing in comfort things. So for me, I have this teddy that I've had through all my operations. It's like a comfort thing for me. And,
that's
some
lovely.
Reassurance thing. I think that makes a big difference. It could be a blanket, it could be a pillow, it could be anything. I think having those comfort items make a big difference. Your favourite food to look forward to after your operation.
Yeah.
They all make a big difference, I think. And I've learned what helps me after. But also, I think don't give yourself tasks or force yourself to do things in hospital. It's okay also to be scared. It's completely normal. But when you do, make sure that you speak to the people in hospital, because they are literally there to help you and don't judge you at all, and they're there for you at your worst,
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that's really important, everything you said there, and one of the many things that people who don't live with a chronic illness or don't have someone close to them live with a chronic illness don't realise is that there's, again, so many layers to it, and one of those layers can be having to advocate for yourself and ask questions and sometimes even push for the right treatment, because at the end of the day, a lot of the time you are the one that knows your body best.
Exactly.
So as much as it can be terrifying, sometimes you have to say, this is what I need.
Completely. And whether that's telling them how you feel or telling them if you disagree with them, I think it all makes such a big difference. I personally, my parents used to do all of it and did a great job, and they still do because I'm 16, but over the years I've advocated for myself a lot more now. I sign the form when I have an operation and I consent to that, and I'm the one that asks the questions. I had a appointment earlier this week and I was the one speaking and my dad just sat there, which And I think it's so important to realise that your voice matters, and you're the one living with this illness, and you know yourself better than anyone else. And I know that it's so daunting sometimes to speak up with a doctor, and you can often feel like you're wasting their time, which you're not at all. But I think it's so important to voice all of your concerns or opinions. Like, my mum has often walked in the doctor's office literally with a notebook of like questions.
Yeah, I do
like
that.
literally like, and then she'll look down and like tick them off once she's asked them. And like, you know, often doctors are happy to ask them, and I think it's also okay to be like, if they say like, what do you think about having this as the treatment or what we do at the moment, and being like, actually, I don't think that's the right thing to do. Because though they are doctors and they know about what you're going through, you are the person going through what you're going through.
Exactly. I think that's amazing. The way you've put that is brilliant, and it's been incredible to watch you grow into this person who now advocates for other people and themselves. It's really amazing.
I feel like I've definitely grown over the years, and I think living with a condition, I think someone living with a condition, they grow exponentially compared to like just a normal person, because you are having to deal with such different things to a normal person. And I think I've had to mature quite quickly because of that, but I also think I see like living with a condition and just life in general differently. So I think that's probably like made quite a big difference.
Oh, definitely. Oh, no, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. Honestly, you sharing all of this is, I have no doubt, really helpful.
I think it's also just, you can feel so alone, like even in a crowded room of people going through what you're going through, you can feel so alone. And so I think it's just knowing that you're really, really, really not alone, whether you know people going through what you're going through or you don't, you're not alone.
Oh, definitely. Thank you. I think there'll be a lot of people who need to hear that, so it's amazing to hear you say it. So last kind of serious question, is there something in particular, of course it can be multiple things, that you think has kind of been the key in helping you do so well, even living with so many challenges in your career, in school, in so many things, because you really are an amazing person? What's helped you get to this point?
Firstly, I think it's my support system. I think that makes such a big difference, and I feel very lucky to have that. My mum and dad have always been very, very supportive of me, whether it's medically or with what I do now, with, you know, advocating, or with my YouTube channel or TV bits. They've always been very supportive of me and championing me on or encouraging me. And I think that makes such a big difference, having a good support system that loves you for who you are and supports you and wants you to do the best, and wants the best for you, makes a big difference. So I like often wonder like where I'd be without, you know, my mum and dad and my brother and sister and the support system I have. I think that's the biggest thing. Like, my dad was the one that encouraged me to set up my channel, and his, like, you know, they've always been like my biggest supporters and like my #1 fans, and I think it makes such a big difference having them with me. And like, I think, I'm very grateful for that. But I think it's also just, I really feel like when I was diagnosed, though I didn't understand what was going on, I just knew that my appearance was changing and that was going to be my life from then on. I really, really saw like my life as black or white, and I saw like, do I just become like someone that just stays at home and just lets my condition get the better of me, or do I continue my life as I have always wanted to, and just let my condition be a part of that journey and change me, you know, in the best way, hopefully. And I think that's what I decided, and I think it can be so hard to not let your condition get the better of you, because when you're going through a hard time, the last thing you want to do is try and fight that, and it can be so draining too. But I think like I really, really saw life as like, you either try or you don't. And I thought that I'm going to fight that extra hard and try. And I think, I just did that. I started my channel, and I think my channel and doing videos became an escapism for me to express myself and be my truest version of myself. And then when I saw that becoming that for other people, it really helped me because it gave me a sense of purpose. And I think often you feel like you have no sense of purpose when you're living with a condition, and life has no purpose and everything like that, and life has no meaning. But I think I did feel like that, and I think it's important to realise that your life does have a purpose and you have a purpose, and it's about you're the one that defines the narrative of that. And I saw this I think I don't remember where I saw it, but it was like your life is basically like a book. It's like it's a bit cringy, but it is, and this is how I see it, like your life is like a book, and it's, you know, every chapter is going to be different and every page is going to be different, but it's about you to write your you know, for you to write your story, and it's down to you to write your story, and you want to be able to look back reading through that book at the last chapter and think, how good was that book? And so I think that's how I've seen life, is like I want to be able to define the narrative of my life and write my book, you know?
Oh, I love that.
Not let my condition write my book.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's amazing, and I think one of the biggest things you're about, which I love, is that kind of writing your own story.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just think what I love about the way you present that is that you're not saying pretend the bad stuff doesn't happen.
No, not at
it's
all.
a part of your story, but that doesn't mean that you can't be in control.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of like going back to that book thing. It's like, you know, in a book you have the good parts and you have the bad parts, you know, and I think life really, really is a roller coaster, but it's up to you, like, how you let it define you, and I think that's like what I've learned over the years, really.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, well, thank you so much. You've been absolutely amazing. Just to finish off, I have a couple of just little quick fire fun questions. So the first one is, what's your favourite food?
Oh, I love Japanese food. Like,
amazing.
Sushi, I love it. I really miss not being able to, I'm such a foodie, so I love food in general, but like Asian, Japanese food is, definitely my favourite.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I love that too. What's your favourite thing to do, favourite hobby?
Favourite hobby? I've got so many now. Well, doing what I do really, so like baking, makeup, singing, songwriting, making YouTube videos, advocating, like being a charity campaigner. I guess that's all of the main things.
Yeah, things that make you, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Especially like makeup and baking and like making videos. Like those are the things of like where I started.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I love that. It's amazing. And finally, what are you looking forward to the most? It can be any time, but specifically like in this next year upcoming, is there something that you're really excited for?
I mean, I've got some really exciting things like in the works, which I wish I could share.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited about being able to talk about those. I'm also really excited for the world to return to some normalcy again.
Definitely.
I think that's the biggest thing that the whole world is looking forward to. So definitely that. Hopefully summer will be really nice this year, so I'm looking forward to having a bit of a summer and being able to be with friends and family that I haven't been able to. And I think I don't, it's that thing of like living every day as it comes. Like, although there are things I look forward to, like, I look forward to hopefully being able to grow my platforms more, advocate more, everything like that. I think it's also that thing of like taking every day as it comes and just doing, what feels right.
100%.
In each day. So yeah, I'd say biggest thing probably is just the world opening up again and everyone being in happier spirits, hopefully.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's nice to see that gradually happening
at the
I
moment. Feel like the whole world kind of was literally just like grey, and I feel like with everything opening up again, I feel like the whole energy of like, being with people is different.
Yeah, me too, especially we've been really lucky with the weather at the moment, so that helps.
Biggest difference. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Oh, well, thank you so much. It's been so lovely to see you and to chat with you.
Finally, it's been so long. No, thank you. Yeah, I absolutely love supporting things like this. I think what you guys are doing is amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. You're amazing. I hope everyone has enjoyed watching this video. We will definitely have more coming your way soon with regards to Q&As, and hopefully things continue heading in the right direction.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Bye.